The rain fell hard on the city of Seoul that night. It was the kind of rain that made people run for cover, the kind that turned streets into small rivers. Taeho sat inside his small guard station and watched the water hit the window. The clock on the wall showed 2 in the morning. He worked as a security guard at a research facility on the edge of the city. The job was quiet. Most nights, nothing happened. He would sit alone, drink cheap coffee, and wait for the sun to rise. It was not an exciting life, but it was his life. After 10 years in the army, he wanted peace. He wanted silence. This job gave him both. Taeho was 32 years old. He had short black hair and tired eyes. His body still carried the strength of a soldier, but his heart carried the weight of things he had seen. He did not talk about his past. He did not talk much at all. He simply did his job and went home to his small apartment. That night, something was different. Through the heavy rain, he saw a figure standing near the fence. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Who would stand outside in weather like this? He leaned closer to the window and looked again. The figure was still there. It was a woman. She stood completely still. The rain poured down on her, but she did not move. She did not look for cover. She just stood there, staring at the sky like she had never seen rain before. Taeho frowned. This was strange. The facility was in an industrial area. There were no houses nearby, no bus stops, no reason for anyone to be here at this hour, especially in a storm. He put on his jacket and grabbed an umbrella. He knew he should call his supervisor. He knew the rules said not to approach unknown people. But something about the woman made him worried. She looked lost. She looked alone. He walked out into the rain and moved toward the fence. As he got closer, he could see her more clearly. She was young, maybe in her mid-20s. She wore simple clothes that were now completely wet. Her hair was long and black, sticking to her face. But there was something strange about her skin. It seemed to shine slightly, like it was reflecting light that was not there. "Excuse me," Taeho called out. "Are you okay?" The woman turned to look at him. Her eyes were unusual. They were dark, but they caught the light from his flashlight in a way that seemed wrong. For a moment, they almost looked purple. "I am fine," she said. Her Korean was perfect, but the way she spoke was strange. Too formal. Too careful. Like she had learned the language from a book and not from people. "You are standing in the rain," Taeho said. "You will get sick. Sick." She tilted her head like she did not understand the word. "Cold. Fever. Your body will not like this much water." She looked down at herself, at her wet clothes, at the water running down her arms. She seemed confused, as if she had not noticed the rain until now. "I see," she said slowly. "This is uncomfortable for humans." Taeho did not know what to say to that. Humans? Why did she say it like that? He pushed the thought away. Maybe she was a foreigner. Maybe Korean was not her first language. Maybe she was just strange. "Come inside," he said. "You can dry off in my guard station. It is warm there." She studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved across his face like she was trying to read something written there. Then she nodded. "You would let a stranger into your space?" She asked. "You are cold and wet. I have a heater and towels. It is not complicated." She smiled at that. It was a small smile, but it changed her whole face. She looked less strange and more human when she smiled. Taeho led her back to the guard station. He gave her a towel and turned up the heater. He made tea because he did not know what else to do. She sat in the extra chair and dried her hair. She watched everything he did with great interest, like she was studying him. "My name is Yuna," she said. "I'm Taeho." "Tao," she repeated, like she was memorizing it. "Why did you help me?" He shrugged. "You needed help," But you do not know me. I could be dangerous. Are you dangerous? She thought about this question seriously. I do not think so. Not to you. Taeho laughed softly. Then we have no problem. They sat together in comfortable silence. Yuna held a warm cup of tea in her hands and stared at it like it was something precious. Taeho watched the rain through the window and did not ask questions. He had learned in the army that some people did not want to explain themselves. Some people just needed a moment of peace. Your world is very loud, Yuna said suddenly. Seoul is a big city. There are many people, many cars. No, not just the city. Everything. The rain. The machines. The lights. She paused. The emotions. Taeho looked at her. Where are you from? She did not answer right away. She turned the cup in her hands, watching the steam rise. Somewhere far away. Somewhere very different from here. He wanted to ask more, but he could see she did not want to say. So he stayed quiet. He refilled her tea when the cup was empty. He gave her a dry jacket from his locker. He treated her like any person who had walked in from the storm. As the first light of morning appeared in the sky, Yuna stood up. The rain had stopped. The world outside was quiet and clean. I must go, she said. Do you have somewhere to stay? Someone to call? I will be fine. She handed back the jacket. Thank you, Taeho. For the warmth. For the tea. For not asking too many questions. It was nothing. She shook her head. It was not nothing. It was kindness. Simple kindness. She looked at him with those strange eyes. My people believe that kindness is rare in the universe. I am beginning to think they might be wrong. Before Taeho could respond, she walked out the door and into the gray morning light. He watched her go. She walked toward the city, and within moments, she had disappeared around a corner. Taeho stood in the doorway for a long time. He did not know who she was. He did not know where she came from. But he knew one thing for certain. He would see her again. 3 nights passed, and Taeho could not stop thinking about the strange woman. Yuna. He remembered her unusual eyes, her careful way of speaking, her words about kindness being rare in the universe. He told himself he was being foolish. She was just a lost traveler, a confused tourist. Nothing more. But he did not believe it. On the 4th night, Taeho finished his shift early. Another guard owed him a favor and agreed to cover the last few hours. Taeho did not know why he wanted the time off. He just felt restless. He felt like something was calling him into the city. He took the bus toward the center of Seoul. The night was clear and cold. Stars were visible above the city lights, small and distant. Taeho walked through the busy streets, past restaurants and shops, past groups of young people laughing and talking. He did not know where he was going. He just walked. Eventually, he found himself in the industrial district on the east side. This was not a nice area. The buildings were old and dirty. Many were abandoned. The streets were poorly lit, and the people who came here at night were usually looking for trouble or trying to hide from it. That was when he saw her. Yuna stood on a street corner, watching a group of street vendors pack up their stalls for the night. She wore different clothes now, simple and dark, but he recognized her immediately. There was no mistaking those eyes, that posture, that look of intense curiosity on her face. Taeho stopped walking. He watched her from a distance. She moved to another spot and observed a couple arguing outside a convenience store. She tilted her head, listening to their angry words. Then she walked further and watched a group of children kicking a ball against a wall. Even though it was far too late for children to be outside, she was studying them. All of them. Like a scientist watching animals in a zoo. Taeho walked toward her. When she noticed him, her eyes widened with surprise. Then she smiled that small, careful smile. Taeho, she said, you are far from your guard station. So are you, he replied. What are you doing here? Observing. Observing what? Your people. She said it simply, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I want to understand how humans live, how they interact, how they treat each other. Taeho looked around at the dark streets, the broken windows, the shadows where dangerous men sometimes hid. This is not a good place to study humans. This is where people come when they have no other choice, or when they want to do bad things. That is why I am here, Yuna said. I have seen your beautiful places, your parks, your temples, your family homes. But I want to see the other side too. I want to understand the full picture. The full picture of what? She did not answer. Instead, she looked at him with those deep, strange eyes. Why are you here, Taeho? Did you follow me? No, I did not know you would be here. I just felt like walking. And you walked to the most dangerous part of the city? He had no answer for that. It did seem strange now that he thought about it. Something had pulled him here. Something he could not explain. Walk with me, Yuna said. Show me this place through your eyes. They walked together through the narrow streets. Taeho pointed out things she might not notice. The homeless man sleeping under cardboard boxes. The old woman selling food from a cart, even at this late hour, because she needed the money. The young men standing in groups, watching everyone who passed with suspicious eyes. Your people have great inequality, Yuna observed. Some have much. Some have nothing. Yes, it has always been this way. Does this not cause anger? Resentment? Sometimes. Sometimes it causes kindness. People helping each other. Sharing what little they have. Yuna nodded slowly. This is what confuses me most about humans. You can be cruel and kind at the same time. You can hurt each other and heal each other with the same hands. Taeho thought about this. We are complicated. You are fascinating. They continued walking. Yuna asked many questions. Why did some people sleep on the street? Why did others walk past without helping? Why did the young men look so angry? Why did the old woman smile even though her life was clearly difficult? Taeho answered as best he could. He told her about poverty and pride, about fear and hope, about the small acts of courage that happened every day in places like this, acts that no one would ever see or remember. As they turned down a darker street, Taeho heard voices ahead. Angry voices. He stopped walking and held up his hand. Wait, he said, quietly. At the end of the street, two groups of men faced each other. They were young, maybe 20 years old, and their bodies were tense with anger. Taeho recognized the signs. He had seen this before. This was a gang dispute. Territory, money, revenge. The reasons did not matter. What mattered was that it was about to turn violent. We need to leave, Taeho said. Now, Yuna did not move. She watched the confrontation with wide eyes. What are they doing? Why are they so angry? They are going to fight. Maybe worse. We cannot be here when that happens. One of the men pulled something from his jacket. Metal caught the light. Taeho's blood went cold. Yuna, move! But she still did not move. She stared at the gun like she had never seen one before. Her face showed confusion, not fear. It was as if the danger did not register in her mind. On my world, she said quietly, we do not solve problems this way. We talk. We negotiate. We find solutions that benefit everyone. This violence, this chaos, it makes no sense to me. Taeho grabbed her arm. I will explain later. Right now, we have to go. The shouting grew louder. More men arrived from both sides. The situation was falling apart. In seconds, it would explode. Taeho pulled Yuna toward a side alley. They had to get out of sight. They had to find cover. His soldier instincts were screaming at him. Every part of his training told him what was coming next. They were almost to the alley when the first shot rang out. The sound was like thunder in the narrow street. Then came more shots, fast and loud, echoing off the walls. People screamed. Glass broke. The world turned into chaos, and Noise.T-Ho did not think. He did not plan. He simply acted. He threw his body over Yuna and pushed her to the ground. He covered her completely, making himself a shield between her and the bullets that flew through the air. He felt something hot graze his shoulder. He felt a hard impact on his back, like a hammer striking his spine. His old ballistic vest caught the bullet, but the force knocked the breath from his lungs. He held her down. He whispered in her ear, "Do not move. Stay still. Stay quiet." The gunfire continued for what felt like forever, but was probably only seconds. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The sounds of running feet faded into the distance. The screaming stopped. Silence returned to the street. Teho stayed in position for another long moment, waiting, listening. When he was sure it was over, he slowly lifted himself off Yuna. His shoulder was bleeding. His back ached where the bullet had hit his vest. But he was alive. And so was she. Yuna stared up at him with an expression he had never seen before. It was shock. It was wonder. It was something close to disbelief. "You protected me," she whispered. "You used your own body to shield me from harm. Are you hurt?" Teho asked. "No, because of you." "But why? Why would you do this? You could have died. You could have run. Why did you stay?" Teho looked down at her. Blood ran down his arm, dripping onto the cold ground. His body hurt. His heart pounded. But when he spoke, his voice was calm. "Because you needed help," he said. "And I was there." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, Teho saw something change in her. Something deep and powerful. She reached up and touched his wounded shoulder. Her hand glowed with soft silver light. The pain faded. The bleeding slowed. "You truly do not understand what you just did," she said. "What it means." Then she did something strange. Her appearance shifted. The illusion she had been wearing fell away. Her skin turned silver with patterns like starlight. Her eyes became fully violet, deep and beautiful like galaxies. She was not human. She had never been human. "My name is Yuna," she said, "but I am not from your world. I am not from any world, you know. And what you just did, Teho, will change everything." Before he could respond, she pressed her hand to his chest. The world went bright, then dark. When he opened his eyes, she was gone. Teho woke up in his own bed. Sunlight came through the window. Birds sang outside. For a moment, he thought it had all been a dream. The woman, the gunfire, the silver skin and violet eyes. It was too strange to be real. Then he felt the pain in his shoulder. He sat up and looked at himself. His shirt was torn and stained with dried blood. His shoulder had a wound, but it was nearly healed. A scar was forming where a bullet had grazed him just hours ago. That should have taken weeks. It had happened overnight. It was real. All of it. Teho stood up slowly and walked to his small bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked the same. Same tired eyes. Same short hair. Same face that had seen too much in 32 years. But something felt different inside him. Something had shifted. He touched the scar on his shoulder. He remembered the moment clearly. The sound of gunfire. The chaos in the street. And the choice he had made without thinking. He had thrown himself over her. He had used his body as a shield. Why? He had asked himself this question many times since the army. Why did some people run toward danger while others ran away? Why did some people protect strangers while others only protected themselves? He had never found an answer. It was simply who he was. When someone needed help, he helped. When someone was in danger, he acted. There was no calculation, no weighing of costs and benefits. There was only the moment, and what needed to be done in that moment. Taiho made coffee and sat by his window. He watched the city wake up below him. Cars filled the streets. People walked to work. Children went to school. The world continued as if nothing had happened. No one knew that an alien had walked among them. No one knew that first contact had already occurred, quietly, in a dark alley, with bullets flying overhead. He thought about Yuna, about her true form, about the silver patterns on her skin that looked like maps of the stars, about the light that had come from her hands when she touched his wound. She was beautiful, but not in a human way. She was beautiful in a way that was larger than anything he had words for. What was she? Where had she come from? Why was she here? The questions circled in his mind, but he had no answers. She had disappeared without explanation. She had left him alone with nothing but memories and a scar that was healing too fast. Taiho went to work that night. He sat in his guard station and watched the empty parking lot. Everything was normal. Everything was quiet. But he kept looking at the fence, hoping to see a figure standing in the darkness. She did not come. The next night was the same. And the night after that, Taiho began to wonder if he had imagined the whole thing. Maybe he had been shot in the head instead of the shoulder. Maybe he was lying in a hospital somewhere, dreaming all of this. But the scar was real. The memories were real. And the feeling in his chest, the strange mix of wonder and loss, that was real too. On the fourth night, something changed. Taiho was making his usual round of the facility when he heard a sound behind him. He turned quickly, his body tensing for danger. But it was not danger. It was Yuna. She stood in the shadows near the back gate. She wore a long coat, and her appearance was human again. But now that he had seen her true form, he could notice the small things that were not quite right. The way her skin caught the light, the depth of her eyes, the stillness of her body, like she did not need to breathe. "You came back," Taiho said. "I was always going to come back," she replied. "I just needed time." "Time for what?" "To understand what happened. To understand what you did." Taiho walked toward her slowly. "I protected you. That is all." "No." She shook her head. "That is not all. You do not understand the weight of your action. You do not know what it means in the larger universe." "Then tell me." Yuna was silent for a long moment. She looked up at the stars, and her expression became sad. "My people are called the Valari. We are old. Older than your species, older than most species in this galaxy. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years." Taiho listened without speaking. This was beyond anything he had imagined. Aliens, ancient civilizations. The galaxy. It was too big, too strange. But he kept listening. "We came to Earth a long time ago," Yuna continued. "We have been watching humanity for centuries. We wanted to know if your species was ready to join the galactic community. We wanted to know if you were worthy. Worthy of what? Of trust. Of partnership. Of sharing in the knowledge and resources of 1,000 worlds." She paused. "But we were not sure. We saw your wars, your cruelty, your endless capacity for destruction. We saw you hurt each other in ways that made no sense to us. Many of our council believed that humanity was too dangerous, too unstable. They wanted to leave you alone until you destroyed yourselves." Taiho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "And now? Now everything has changed. Because of you. Because I protected you from bullets? That does not seem like a big thing." Yuna turned to face him fully. Her human disguise flickered for a moment, and he saw the silver patterns beneath. Teho, I have studied hundreds of species across dozens of worlds. I have seen how they behave when they think no one is watching. I have seen their true nature. And what have you seen? I have seen that most species protect only their own kind. They help those who share their blood, their tribe, their nation. This is natural. This is evolution. You protect those who carry your genes because it helps your genes survive. But you did something different. She took a step closer to him. You protected a stranger. Someone you had met only twice. Someone who was not from your family, your city, your country, or even your species. You threw your body between her and death without hesitation, without calculation, without any expectation of reward. Anyone would have done the same. No, her voice was firm. They would not. I have seen it with my own eyes. When danger comes, most beings run. Most beings save themselves first. Most beings let strangers die because it is not their problem. But you did not. You could not. It was not a choice for you. It was simply who you are. Teho did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He had never thought of that moment as anything more than instinct. But the way Yuna looked at him made him feel like he had done something impossible. My people value many things, Yuna said. Intelligence, technology, art. But the thing we value most is compassion. The ability to see another being's pain and feel it as your own. The ability to help someone even when it costs you everything. This is the rarest quality in the universe. And you have it. So what happens now? Teho asked. Now, I must return to my people and report what I have witnessed. I must tell them that humanity is not what we thought. That there is more to your species than war and greed. That there is kindness too. True kindness. The kind that does not ask for anything in return. Will they believe you? Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was hope in it. I do not know, but I have to try. Because what you did, Teho, it deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be rewarded. And humanity deserves a chance to prove itself. She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm, warmer than he expected. Energy flowed between them, and he felt a strange connection, like a thread linking his heart to something vast and ancient. I will come back, she said. I promise. And when I do, everything will be different. She released his hand and stepped back. Light surrounded her body. Her human form dissolved, revealing the silver-skinned being beneath. She was beautiful beyond words. She was something from dreams, from stories, from the deepest hopes of everyone who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Thank you, Teho, she said, for reminding me why I believe in humanity. The light grew brighter. Teho had to shield his eyes. When the light faded, she was gone. He stood alone in the darkness, staring at the empty space where she had been. Above him, the stars seemed brighter than before, closer, more alive. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if she would keep her promise. But for the first time in many years, Teho felt something he had forgotten. He felt hope. 5 days passed after Yuna disappeared into the light. 5 days of silence. 5 days of waiting. Teho went through his life like a ghost, doing his job, eating his meals, sleeping his empty sleep. But his mind was never present. His mind was always somewhere else, looking up at the stars, wondering what was happening beyond the sky. He told no one about what he had seen. Who would believe him? If he walked into a police station and said that aliens were real, that he had met one, that she had silver skin and violet eyes and could heal wounds with her touch, they would think he was crazy. They would send him to a hospital. They would give him medicine and tell him to rest out, so he stayed silent. He kept a secret buried deep inside him. It was heavy, heavier than anything he had ever carried. The truth of the universe sat on his shoulders, and he could share it with no one. At night, he would sit on the roof of his apartment building and look at the stars. He tried to imagine which one Yuna had come from. Was it a nearby star, just a few light years away? Or was it something distant, something he could not even see with his eyes? He did not know. He might never know. The wound on his shoulder finished healing. There was no scar left. It was as if the bullet had never touched him. Yuna's light had erased all evidence of that night. All evidence except his memories. Sometimes he wondered if he had imagined everything. The human mind could create powerful illusions. Stress, trauma, loneliness, all of these things could make a person see things that were not real. Maybe Yuna was a hallucination. Maybe the gunfight had damaged his brain. Maybe he was slowly losing his grip on reality, but then he would remember the feeling of her hand on his wound, the warmth that had spread through his body, the light that had filled his eyes. It had been real. It had been more real than anything he had ever experienced. He went back to work. He sat in his guard station and watched the empty facility. His co-worker, an old man named Dongwook, noticed that something was different about him. "You seem distracted," Dongwook said one night. "Is everything okay?" Taeho nodded. "Just tired. Not sleeping well. You should see a doctor. Bad sleep can mess with your head." Taeho almost laughed. If only Dongwook knew what was really messing with his head. "I will think about it," he said, but he did not see a doctor. He did not tell anyone. He just waited that far away, beyond the Earth's atmosphere, beyond the moon, beyond the edge of the solar system. Yuna was waiting too. She stood in a great hall made of light. The walls were not solid. They shifted and moved like water, displaying images from 1,000 worlds. The floor was transparent, showing stars and galaxies spinning below. This was the council chamber of Vilari. This was where the fate of civilizations was decided. Around her sat the elders, the oldest and wisest of her people. They wore robes of woven light, and their faces carried the weight of millions of years. At the center of them all sat Elder Subin, Yuna's grandmother. The high matriarch of the council. Su-Bin was ancient. Her silver skin was marked with patterns that told the story of her long life. Her eyes were deep and knowing. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had watched stars die. She had made decisions that changed the course of history. Now she listened as Yuna told her story. "A human shielded me with his body," Yuna said. Her voice echoed in the great hall. "He did not know who I was. He did not know what I was. He only knew that I was in danger. And he acted." The elders murmured among themselves. Some looked skeptical. Some looked curious. Some looked like they had heard this kind of story before and did not believe it. "Humans have shown kindness before," one elder said. "They help each other after disasters. They donate money to strangers. This is not unique." "But this was different," Yuna replied. "He did not help someone of his own kind. He helped someone he thought was a stranger from a foreign land. And he did not just give money or words. He gave his body. He put himself between me and death. The bullets hit him instead of me." Another elder spoke. "Perhaps he expected a reward. Perhaps he wanted something from you. He wanted nothing. He expected nothing. When I asked him why he did it, he said simply that I needed help and he was there. There was no calculation, no self-interest, only compassion." Elder Subin had not spoken yet. She sat in silence, her ancient eyes fixed on Yuna. Finally, she raised her hand and the chamber fell quiet. "You believe this human represents something new," Subin said. something we have not seen before in our study of humanity. Yes, grandmother, you believe his action was not an exception, but an example of what humans can be. Yes, Su Bin was quiet for a long moment. The images on the wall shifted, showing scenes from Earth's history. Wars, genocides, bombs falling on cities, children crying in rubble. The worst of humanity played out before the council. We have watched them for centuries, Su Bin said. We have seen what they are capable of. Destruction on a scale that few species can match. They have killed millions of their own kind for reasons that make no sense. They have poisoned their own world. They have weapons that could end all life on their planet. Yuna nodded. I know. I have seen these things too. And yet you ask us to reconsider. You ask us to give them a chance. I do. Because I have also seen the other side. I have seen a man who had every reason to run, every reason to save himself, choose instead to protect a stranger. I have seen kindness that expects nothing in return. I have seen the light in human hearts. The elders debated for hours. Some argued that humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable. They had seen too many species destroy themselves and take others with them. It was safer to wait, to watch, to let humans prove themselves over the next few centuries. But others saw what Yuna saw. They saw the potential. They saw that humanity's capacity for destruction was matched by a capacity for love. That the same passion that led to war could also lead to heroism. That humans were not good or evil, but both. And that gave them something rare in the universe, the power to choose. Finally, Elder Su Bin made her decision. We will go to Earth, she said. We will meet this human who protected my granddaughter. We will see for ourselves if he represents the future of his species, or if he is merely an exception. Yuna felt her heart lift. And if he proves true, then we will make humanity an offer. The same offer we have made to only a handful of species in our long history. The offer to join us. To become part of the galactic community. To share in the knowledge and resources of 1,000 worlds. The council voted. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. The decision was made. Su-Bin looked at Yuna with something like pride. You have done well, child. You have looked beyond the obvious and seen the hidden truth. This is the mark of wisdom. I only reported what I saw. No, you saw what others chose to ignore. That is not the same thing. Su Bin stood and walked to the great window that looked out on the stars. Earth was not visible from here. It was a tiny, distant world, orbiting a small yellow star on the edge of the galaxy. But in that moment, it felt like the most important place in the universe. Prepare the fleet, Su Bin said. We leave for Earth in 3 days. And tell no one our purpose. This must be done carefully. This must be done right. Yuna bowed her head. Yes, grandmother. As she left the council chamber, she thought about Taeho. She wondered what he was doing at this moment. She wondered if he was looking up at the stars, thinking about her. She wondered if he had any idea that his simple act of courage had set in motion events that would change human history forever. He did not know. He could not know. But soon, very soon, he would understand. The universe was watching. And Taeho had passed the test. The morning started like any other. Taeho woke up at noon, made coffee, and turned on the television. He was not really watching it. He was thinking about work, about bills, about the small problems that filled ordinary life. The news played in the background, a soft murmur of voices talking about politics and weather. Then the voices stopped. Tae-Ho looked up. The screen had changed. The regular program was gone, replaced by a special emergency broadcast. The news anchor looked pale and shaken. Her hands trembled as she held her papers. We are receiving reports of an unidentified object in the sky over Seoul. she said. Military authorities are asking citizens to remain calm and stay indoors. We are going live to our correspondent in the city center. The image changed to a street scene. People were standing frozen, staring upward. Cars had stopped in the middle of the road. The camera tilted up, and Taiho felt his heart stop. A ship hung in the sky. It was massive, larger than anything human hands had ever built. Its surface was smooth and silver, reflecting the sunlight like a mirror. It made no sound. It had no visible engines. It simply floated there, motionless, as if gravity did not apply to it. Taiho dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. He was already running to his window. He threw it open and looked up. The ship was there, above Seoul, blocking out the sun. Its shadow covered the entire city. Taiho could see smaller objects moving around it, like birds circling a mountain. Other ships. Dozens of them. They had come. Across the city, chaos erupted. People ran through the streets, screaming. Some tried to drive away, but the roads were jammed with traffic. Others fell to their knees and prayed. Churches, temples, and mosques filled with people seeking comfort in their faith. The military mobilized, jets scrambling into the sky, tanks rolling through the streets, but no attack came. The ships did not move. They did not fire. They simply waited, silent and still. As the world below them panicked, Taiho stood at his window for hours, watching the news. Every channel showed the same thing. The ship over Seoul. Similar ships appearing over other cities around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing. The aliens were not invading one country. They were introducing themselves to the entire planet at once. Governments issued statements, but no one knew what to say. The United Nations held an emergency meeting. World leaders gave speeches about unity and strength. But their words were hollow. Everyone knew that humanity was facing something far beyond its understanding. Then, in the late afternoon, something changed. A single shuttle detached from the great ship over Seoul. It was small compared to its mother vessel, but still larger than any airplane. It descended slowly, gracefully, like a feather falling through water. The military tracked it with radar. Soldiers aimed their weapons. The whole city held its breath, but the shuttle did not go to the government buildings. It did not land at the airport or the military base. It flew over the city, past the skyscrapers and monuments, and stopped above a modest apartment complex on the east side. Taiho's apartment complex. He heard the sound of helicopters overhead. He heard soldiers shouting in the street below. He heard his neighbors crying and praying. But he was not afraid. He knew somehow that this was for him. He walked downstairs and out the front door of his building. The street was filled with soldiers. They had created a perimeter around the landing site, holding back the crowds that had gathered to watch. Tanks lined the road. Helicopters circled above. It looked like a war zone. Standing in the middle of it all was a man in a military uniform. Taiho recognized him immediately. Captain Hyun-soo. His former commander from the army. Hyun-soo saw Taiho and strode toward him, his face tight with confusion and barely controlled panic. "Taiho," Hyun-soo said. "What in the name of heaven is going on? The aliens asked for you by name. They gave your exact address. How do they know you?" Taiho looked past his former commander at the shuttle that was now landing in the small park next to his building. Its door was opening. Lights spilled out, bright and silver. "It is a long story," Taiho said. "I need answers. The entire government needs answers. Who are you to these aliens? What have you done?" "I saved someone's life." Hyun-soo stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "What?" Before Taiho could explain, a figure emerged from the shuttle. It was Yuna. She walked down the ramp with her head held high. She was wearing ceremonial robes of woven light that shimmered with every step. Her human disguise was gone. Her silver skin glowed in the afternoon sun. Her violet eyes swept across the crowd and found Taeho immediately. Behind her came others, more of her kind, tall and silver and beautiful. And at the center of them, walking slowly with the weight of great age and greater wisdom, was Elder Su-Bin. The crowd fell silent. Soldiers lowered their weapons without being told. There was something about these beings that demanded respect, something that made even the bravest men feel small. Yuna walked toward Taeho. She stopped in front of him and smiled. "Hello, Taeho," she said. "I told you I would come back. You brought a lot of friends." She laughed softly. "I brought my family, my people. They wanted to meet the human who shielded me from gunfire." Elder Su-Bin stepped forward. She was older than Taeho could comprehend, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She studied him for a long moment, looking at him the way a scientist looks at something under a microscope. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She bowed. It was not a small bow, not a nod of the head. It was a deep, formal bow of respect, the kind that important people gave to each other, the kind that acknowledged someone as an equal. "Taeho of Earth," Su-Bin said. Her voice carried across the silent street. "My granddaughter has told me what you did. You protected her at the cost of your own safety. You shielded a stranger with your body. You asked for nothing in return." Taeho did not know what to say. He stood there in his old clothes, surrounded by soldiers and aliens, feeling completely out of his depth. "Among my people, such an act is rare beyond measure," Su-Bin continued. "We have studied thousands of species across the galaxy. Most protect only their own kind. Most would never risk death for a stranger. But you did, without hesitation, without calculation. You acted from pure compassion." She straightened and looked at him with those ancient eyes. "We have come to Earth for two reasons. The first is to thank you personally for saving my granddaughter's life. The debt of the Velari to you is great." "And the second reason?" Taeho asked. Su-Bin smiled. It was a warm smile, gentle and knowing. "The second reason is why I have brought the council with me. We did not come just to meet you, Taeho. We came to meet your species, to offer humanity something we have offered only a handful of civilizations in our long history." She turned to face the cameras that were broadcasting this moment to every screen on Earth. Billions of people watched as the ancient alien spoke. "We came to offer you stars." The world went silent. Every person on the planet, watching from their homes, their offices, their cars, held their breath. "But first," Su-Bin said, turning back to Taeho, "we must discuss the details. And for that conversation, we need a representative. Someone who can speak for humanity. Someone who has already shown us the best of what your species can be." She extended her hand toward him. "Will you speak for your people, Taeho?" He looked at her hand. He looked at the ship behind her, at the stars beyond, at the future that had suddenly opened before him. Then he looked back at Yuna, who stood watching with hope in her eyes. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted to be special. He was just a man who had done what felt right in a terrible moment. But the universe did not care what he wanted. The universe had chosen him anyway. He took Su-Bin's hand. "I will try," he said. The world watched in silence as Elder Su-Bin addressed humanity. Cameras from every news network broadcast her image to every corner of the planet. People gathered in homes, in offices and public squares, staring at screens, witnessing the moment that would define their history. Su-Bin stood before the cameras with a calm dignity that spoke of ages beyond human understanding. Behind her, the great silver ship still hung in the sky, a reminder of powers far beyond anything Earth had known. At her side stood Yuna, watching Teho with a gentle smile. And Teho himself stood among the aliens, still wearing his simple clothes, still looking like an ordinary man, thrust into an extraordinary situation. "People of Earth," Subin began. Her voice was translated through unseen technology, each listener hearing her words in their own language. "We are the Valari. We have traveled the stars for longer than your species has existed. We have watched civilizations rise and fall across countless worlds. And for the last 500 years, we have been watching you." A murmur passed through the crowd gathered in the street. Around the world, people leaned closer to their screens. "We came to Earth long ago, hidden among you, studying your ways. We wanted to know if humanity was ready to join the greater community of intelligent life. We wanted to know if you were worthy of trust." Subin paused. Her ancient eyes seemed to see beyond the cameras, beyond the crowds, directly into the hearts of everyone watching. "What we found was complicated. We saw great evil in your history. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy your entire world. Cruelty and hatred that shocked even those among us who have seen the worst the universe has to offer. Many of my people believed that humanity was too dangerous, too violent, too selfish. They wanted to leave you alone, to let you follow your own path, even if that path led to destruction." The silence was heavy. Around the world, people felt the weight of judgment. They saw their history reflected in those alien eyes, and they were ashamed. "But we also saw something else," Supin continued. "We saw love that transcended boundaries. Parents dying for children. Strangers helping strangers. Small acts of kindness that no one would ever see or remember. We saw that humans are not simply good or evil. You are both. You carry within you the capacity for the darkest cruelty and the brightest light." She turned and gestured toward Teho. "And then we saw this man, a soldier who became a guard. A man who had seen war and chosen peace. A man who asked nothing from the universe except quiet days and simple work. And when danger came, when my granddaughter's life was threatened, this man did something remarkable." The cameras focused on Teho. He shifted uncomfortably under the attention of billions. He shielded her with his body. He took bullets meant for her. He protected a stranger at the cost of his own blood, his own pain, perhaps his own life. He did not know who she was. He did not know what she was. He knew only that she needed help, and he was there to give it. Subin walked to stand beside Teho. She placed her silver hand on his shoulder. "This is what convinced us. Not your technology, not your governments, not your military strength. A single act of selfless courage from an ordinary man. This is what humanity can be. This is what you are, beneath all the fear and violence and anger. You are a species that is capable of pure, unconditional love." She turned back to the cameras. "And that is why we have come today. Not to conquer, not to judge, but to offer." The crowd held its breath. The world held its breath. "We invite humanity to join the Valari Coalition. This is an alliance of 37 civilizations spread across our region of the galaxy. We share technology, resources, knowledge, and protection. We help each other grow. We defend each other from threats. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone." The news anchors watching the feed could barely contain their excitement. This was first contact. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. And it was happening now in front of their eyes. "If you accept this offer, you will receive access to technology that will solve many of your greatest problems. Clean energy, advanced medicine, methods of travel that will open the stars to you. You will learn the true history of the universe, the story of life across millions of worlds. You will meet species you cannot imagine. You will become part of something larger than yourselves. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell even more silent. But there is a condition. We do not force membership. We do not demand loyalty. The only thing we require is a representative. Someone who will speak for humanity in our councils. Someone who will carry your voice to the stars. Someone who has proven themselves worthy of that trust. She looked at Teho. We ask that Teho be that representative. We ask that the man who saved one of us become the voice for all of you. Chaos erupted. Journalists shouted questions. Military commanders demanded explanations. Government officials pushed forward, insisting that they should be the ones to negotiate. That important decisions could not be left to some unknown security guard, but Subin did not acknowledge them. Her eyes remained fixed on Teho. The choice must be his, she said, and his alone. We do not accept representatives chosen by power or politics. We accept representatives chosen by character, by their actions when no one is watching, by the truth of who they are. Captain Hyan Su stepped forward. His face was tight with a mix of confusion and anger. This is impossible, he said. One man cannot speak for all of humanity. There are governments. There are processes. You cannot simply choose someone and declare them our ambassador. Subin turned to him with a calm expression. We can and we will. Your governments have never seen what we have seen. They have never been tested as Teho was tested. They do not carry the same proof of character. He is just a man, Hyan-Su protested. An ordinary man. Yes, Subin nodded. That is exactly the point. He is ordinary. And in an extraordinary moment, he showed what ordinary humans are capable of. This is what gives us hope for your species. Not your leaders, but your common people. Not your speeches, but your actions. She turned back to face the cameras one final time. We will wait for your answer, but we will not wait forever. The universe does not stop for any species. There are dangers in the stars that you do not know about. There are forces that would see humanity destroyed before it can rise. If you wish to survive, if you wish to flourish, you must decide. She looked at Teho. And you must decide as well. We are asking you to leave everything you know. Your home, your life, your world. We are asking you to become something new, something larger than yourself. It is not an easy path. It is not a comfortable path. But it is a path of meaning, a path of purpose. Teho felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Billions of people watching, the fate of his species hanging in the balance, and all of it resting on his shoulders. He had never wanted this. He had never asked for this. He was just a man who had done what felt right. But looking at Yuna, looking at Subin, looking at the stars that had suddenly become so much closer, he realized something. Maybe that was enough, that maybe doing what felt right was the only qualification that mattered. I need time, he said. His voice was quiet, but the microphones carried it to every ear on the planet. I need to think. Subin nodded. You have until tomorrow at dawn. Then we will need your answer. And the answer of your people. She turned and walked back toward the shuttle. Yuna hesitated, looking at Teho with concern. I know this is hard, she said softly. I know you did not ask for any of this, but I believe in you. And whatever you decide, I will respect it. Then she followed her grandmother into the ship. The shuttle rose silently into the sky, returning to the great vessel that still hung above the city. The crowd remained frozen, staring upward, trying to process what had just happened. Teho stood alone in the middle of the street, surrounded by cameras and soldiers and the weight of the entire world's expectations. Tomorrow he would have to give an answer. Tonight, he had to find one. The night was the longest of Teho's life. He sat on the roof of his apartment building, looking up at the alien ship that still hung above Seoul. Around him, the city buzzed with fear and excitement. No one was sleeping. How could anyone sleep on a night like this? His phone had not stopped ringing. Government officials, military commanders, journalists, everyone wanted to talk to him. Everyone wanted to tell him what to do, what to say, what to think. He had turned off the phone hours ago. The voices of politicians and experts meant nothing right now. This decision was his alone. The world had reacted as he expected. Some leaders welcomed the offer with open arms. They saw the technology, the resources, the protection. They saw power and opportunity. Other leaders were afraid. They saw invasion disguised as friendship. They saw humanity losing its independence, becoming a small fish in a very large ocean. Arguments raged across every news channel. Protests filled the streets, some demanding acceptance, others demanding resistance. But none of them truly understood what was being asked, that it was not about technology or politics. It was not about what humanity would gain or lose. It was about what humanity was. The Valari had looked at the human race and seen something worth saving. They had seen kindness in a world full of cruelty. They had seen hope in a species that often seemed hopeless, and they had seen it in him. That was the part he could not understand. Why him? He was nothing special. He had no education, no money, no power. He was a former soldier who had traded his gun for a flashlight, his battlefield for an empty parking lot. He had spent the last years of his life trying to disappear, trying to be invisible, trying to forget the things he had seen in the army. And now the entire universe was watching him. He heard footsteps on the stairs behind him. He turned to see Yuna walking toward him. She had changed out of her ceremonial robes and wore simple human clothes again. Her silver skin glowed softly in the starlight. "I thought you might be here," she said, sitting down beside him. I could not sleep. No one could. Not tonight. They sat together in silence for a long moment, watching the ship above them. It was strange how comfortable the silence felt. With anyone else, Taiho would have felt pressure to speak, to fill the emptiness with words. But with Yuna, silence was enough. "I am afraid," he said finally. "Of what?" "Of everything. Of leaving Earth. Of speaking for people I have never met. Of failing. Of succeeding. Of becoming something I do not recognize." Yuna nodded. "Fear is natural. My people feel it too. We just hide it better. Your grandmother does not seem afraid of anything. She is afraid of many things. She is afraid of making the wrong choice. She is afraid of what will happen to the galaxy if the coalition weakens. She is afraid that she has lived too long and seen too much to truly understand the young anymore." Yuna smiled. "She told me once that wisdom is not the absence of fear. It is the understanding that fear cannot be allowed to make your decisions." Taeho thought about this. Fear had controlled so much of his life. Fear had made him leave the army. Fear had made him hide in quiet jobs and small apartments. Fear had kept him from forming connections, from trusting people, from opening his heart. And yet, when the gunfire started, fear had disappeared. In that moment, there had been no calculation, no hesitation. There had only been action. "Why did you protect me that night?" Yuna asked. "I have asked you before, but I never understood your answer. You said I needed help, and you were there. But that is not a reason. That is a description." Taeho was quiet for a long time. He watched the stars and searched for words. "When I was in the army," he said slowly, "I saw a lot of death. I saw friends die. I saw enemies die. I saw innocent people die for no reason at all. And every time, I felt the same thing. This helplessness. This knowledge that I could not stop it, that I was too small, too weak, too late. He paused, remembering faces he had tried to forget. After I left the army, I promised myself something. I promised that if I ever had the chance to help someone, if I ever had the power to save a life, I would do it. No matter what. No matter the cost. Because living with the memory of someone I failed to save is worse than any pain, any wound, any death. Yuna reached over and took his hand. Her touch was warm. "That is why you are the right person for this," she said. "Not because you are special. Not because you are powerful. But because you care. You truly, genuinely care about people you have never met. About strangers. About the universe. I do not know if that is enough. It is the only thing that matters." They sat together until the first light of dawn touched the sky. The city began to wake up. The crowds that had gathered around his building were still there, waiting. Cameras were pointed at every window. The world was holding its breath. Tejo stood up. His body ached from the sleepless night, but his mind was clear. He had made his decision. He looked at Yuna. "I am ready." She smiled and stood beside him. "I will be with you." Every step of the way. They walked downstairs together. When Tejo stepped out of his building, the crowd erupted. Questions flew at him from every direction. Cameras flashed. Soldiers held back the pressing mass of journalists and spectators. He walked through it all in silence, Yuna at his side, until he reached the open space where the shuttle had landed the day before. As if on cue, the shuttle descended again. Its door opened, and Elder Subin emerged. She walked toward Tejo and stopped in front of him. Her ancient eyes studied his face. "You have made your decision," she said. It was not a question. "Yes. And what have you decided?" Tejo turned to face the cameras. Billions of people watched. Leaders, citizens, children, elders. The entire human race waiting for his words. He took a deep breath. "I am not a leader," he said. "I am not a politician or a scientist or a hero. I am just a man who did what felt right in a difficult moment. I do not know if that makes me qualified to speak for humanity. I do not know if anyone can truly speak for 8 billion people." He paused. "But I know this. Humanity is not perfect. We have done terrible things. We have hurt each other, killed each other, destroyed our own world. But we have also loved each other. We have built beautiful things. We have dreamed of the stars, and now the stars have come to us." He looked at Subin. "You said you saw kindness in me. You said you saw hope. But that kindness is not mine alone. It belongs to every parent who has sacrificed for their children, every stranger who has helped someone in need, every person who has chosen love over hate, compassion over cruelty, hope over despair." He turned back to the cameras. "I am not special, but humanity is. Not because we are perfect, but because we can choose. We can choose to be better. We can choose to reach for the stars instead of tearing each other down. We can choose to prove that the Valari are right to believe in us." He faced Subin again. "I accept your offer. I will be humanity's representative. Not because I am the best choice, but because someone has to take the first step. And if my stepping forward means that humanity gets a chance to prove itself, then it is worth any cost." Subin smiled. It was the smile of someone who had lived long enough to recognize truth when she heard it. "Then let us begin," she said. She turned and walked toward the shuttle. Tejo followed. Yuna walked beside him. Behind them, the crowd was silent, watching, understanding that this was a moment that would be remembered forever. At the base of the shuttle ramp, Tejo stopped and looked back at Earth, at the city where he had lived, at the sky where he had dreamed, at the world he was leaving behind. He felt fear. He felt hope. He felt the weight of responsibility and the lightness of purpose. He stepped onto the ramp. The shuttle doors closed. The ship rose silently into the sky. carrying Taiho toward the great vessel above. Below, the world watched as the shuttle docked with the ship. And then, slowly, majestically, the Valari fleet began to move. They rose higher and higher until they were just bright points of light in the morning sky. And then they were gone, vanishing into the depths of space, carrying with them humanity's first ambassador, humanity's first hope, humanity's first step toward the stars, on Earth. People looked up at the empty sky and wondered what would come next. In the stars. Taiho looked out a window at the shrinking blue. That was his home world and thought about everything that had led to this moment. A rainy night. A stranger at the fence. A simple act of kindness. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if he would succeed or fail, if humanity would rise or fall. But he knew one thing for certain. The gunfire that night had not been an ending. It had been a beginning. And now, finally, the story was starting.